What's up, guys? In this video, we're going to be breaking down the 2022 USC Trojans schedule and predicting the wins and loss total, and breaking down each game a little bit, some of the matchups, some of the players, key players. USC, as we know, bringing in Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma as a head coach this year. They absolutely ransacked the transfer portal, brought in quarterback Caleb Williams from Oklahoma, as well as former Oregon star running back Travis Dye. Brought in the Blitnikoff winning wide receiver Jordan Addison from Pitt. Also brought in Mario Williams from Oklahoma, a very fast, elite, big-time receiver. Also brought in a transfer out of Colorado in Brendan Rice. They've got former Stanford running back Austin Jones, who'll be backing up Travis Dye, and also five-star running back Raleek Brown, who gives them insurance there in the backfield. The defense is not as strong as the offense, but they do have some reinforcements coming via the transfer portal. Auburn transfer Romello Heights should give them some much-needed pass rush off the edge. Alabama transfer Shane Lee will team up with returning starter Rashawn Goforth at linebacker. There are definitely some questions in the secondary for the Trojans, but Colorado transfer Mekhi Blackman, as well as Texas transfer Xavier Alford, should give them a boost and somewhat of an improvement as far as their pass defense from the 2021 season. When we break down each game, the first game of the season, they're taking on Rice. This is a classic opening week cupcake for a Power 5 team. This game should not be competitive at all. There's really not too much to break down. I think it'll be an easy blowout win for USC. I think they'll start the Lincoln Riley era out with a nice, comfortable 1-0 start. The second game of the season, they're at Stanford. In the past, this would be a very, very tough game to pick and a potential loss for the Trojans, but not this year. The Cardinals are coming off a 4-7 disappointing season, and they don't have the offensive firepower to exploit the weakness of this USC team, which in my opinion is the defense, and specifically the pass defense. I don't think they have the quarterback play or the weapons at wide receiver to really exploit the weakness that USC has. And for that reason, I'm predicting a multi-score win for the Trojans in Week 2 on the road, and I think they'll start off the season 2-0. Third game of the season against Fresno State at home. I think this is a potential trap game for USC. I think this could be a situation where they're potentially looking forward to the game next week on the road at Oregon State, a conference game on the road, and not, giving everything they should to Fresno State. I think Fresno State has the answer to potentially exploiting the Trojans, and that's elite quarterback play. Fresno State has Jake Haener, who is a All-Mountain West second-team QB last year. He threw for over 4,000 yards with 33 touchdowns to only 9 picks. He was 8th in the nation in pass yards, as well as top 15 in every single metric, like pass yards per game, quarterback rating, completions per game, average yards per attempt. So he's a very, very good quarterback, and especially early in the season, only the third game of the year, that defense hasn't had a whole lot of time to gel together yet. So if they're going to get exploited and beat by a team that isn't as talented as them, I think that this is an opportunity for that to happen. And Jake Haener, I believe, is the best quarterback that Fresno State has had since Derek Carr and his brother David. So, this is a very, very solid quarterback. The Bulldogs have a D loaded with upperclassmen as well, which I think is very important because, as we know, the Trojans expect to have a loaded offense this year, a lot of firepower at wide receiver, a quarterback, and also running back. So they're definitely going to put up some points. But this is an experienced Fresno State defense, so I do think they have a shot to, holding USC to under 40 points or so. And if they're able to do that, then I really do believe that they can be in this game. I think they'll be able to throw the ball and really have a big game here. So This is something I went back and forth on, but I did go and give Fresno State the upset win here, and I think that it'll be 2-1 after 3 games to start the season. Next game, as I mentioned, they go at Oregon State. I think that the Trojans will respond here and go on the road and have a convincing win against the Beavers. Oregon State, as similar to Stanford, doesn't really have the offensive firepower needed to put pressure on the Trojans. I think that USC is definitely going to score and a lot of points, and I don't think that Oregon State has the offense to keep up with them in the shootout. So for that reason, I am going to give the win to USC, and I think that they will move to 3-1 on the season. Next game of the season, we got Arizona State at home. Florida transfer Emory Jones will play at QB for the Sun Devils. Xavier Valladay transfers in for Wyoming at the running back position, and former Vandy wide receiver Cam Johnson will headline the wide receivers unit for Arizona State. I think it'll be somewhat close given that Arizona State had 8 games. They won 8 games last year. They got a solid coach at Herm Edwards, but I don't think that Emory Jones is quite at the level needed to really put pressure on the Trojans, and I think that since the game is in Los Angeles, I think that the Trojans will win this game, and I think that they'll go ahead and move to 4-1 on the season. Next game of the season, Washington State at home. Washington State is a team that finished 7-6 last year and have a ton of roster turnover in many key areas. Cam Ward comes in at quarterback as a transfer from Incarnate Ward. The entire secondary is new, 3 of which are transfers, and I think that lack of cohesion is going to spell trouble with an explosive USC offense and elite wide receiver unit. I think it'll be a nice win for the Trojans here, and I think that they'll move to 5-1 on the season at this point. Next game of the season is the toughest game of the season, in my opinion, for the Trojans. They go on the road to Utah. They've got a elite quarterback in Cameron Rising, and I think that that elite quarterback play will be able to exploit the weakness of the Trojans, which I've already mentioned is their secondary. I think that since the game is on the road with Cam Rising giving them an elite quarterback play, I think that the USC defense could be in some trouble, and I think that they'll be able to match the USC offense in a shootout and pull out victorious. So I am going to give Utah the win here, and I think that brings to USC to 5-2 at this point in the season. Next game of the season, they got Arizona at home. This game should not be close at all. Arizona was the worst team in the Pac-12 last year at 1-11, and should be another non-competitive game. So I've got 6-2 at this point for USC. Next game of the season, they got Cal at home. Cal was another mediocre team last season at 4-7. They've not improved the offense, and it will be led by former Purdue transfer Jack Plummer, who I have seen game, watched him play. Have been too impressed with him. I don't think that he's going to really offer USC anything to worry about. And like I said, there's kind of a story with a lot of these teams in the Pac-12. Not enough firepower on offense, and especially with Cal, not enough firepower on either side of the ball to really compete with the Trojans. So I've got the Trojans at 7-2 after 9 games. After this, they go at home against Colorado, another mediocre team, 4-8 from last year. Tennessee transfer J.T. Shrout is anticipated to be the starter at quarterback. They've got a running back, Alex Fortino, who has some experience and will definitely put up some decent numbers this season, but it's not going to be enough to put some pressure on this UFC defense. And defensively for the Buffaloes, they have 3 freshmen or redshirt freshmen expected to start, and that's not going to end well against this elite receiving core of the Trojans. I expect UFC to put up a ton of points and have a comfortable win here on the road, at home against Colorado. So this should move them to 8-2 at this point in the season. That next game is a big rivalry game. UCLA at the Rose Bowl. Should be a very, very close and competitive game. UCLA returns Dorian Thompson-Robinson at the quarterback position. They also bring in Zach Charbonnet, former Michigan running back. So they'll definitely have a nice 1-2 punch there offensively. And on the defense, they've got some experience and have some transfer reinforcements coming in. But I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson is the kind of quarterback that hurts you more, is more of a dual threat guy, can hurt you with his legs, hurt you with the arm. But I don't know if he has just the pure pocket ability to really exploit the weakness of USC, which is the secondary. And for that reason, I am giving USC the slight edge in this game. I do think that USC offense is just going to be absolutely almost very, very tough to stop. So I think it's going to be close, but I am picking USC in this rivalry game. So it's going to move the Trojans to 9-2 after 11 games. And the final game of the season, they got Notre Dame at home. And Notre Dame is a very talented team that went 11-2 last year. Extremely stout defense returns. The entire defense is seniors, fifth-year seniors, only one junior in there as well, so all upperclassmen. And I think that's really going to help to neutralize the USC offense, or at least give the hardest time to this USC offense of any other team. I don't know that they'll be able to go out and score 35, 40 points in this game. They have the Fighting Irish have 5-star quarterback Tyler Buechner out of San Diego, who is a sophomore and expected to come in and start for them. There are question marks at wide receiver for Notre Dame. Avery Davis recently tore his ACL or his Achilles and is out for the season. So there's not a lot of proven experience and production at wide receiver for the Irish, but they do recruit very well, mostly 4- and 5-star players. So I do expect there to be talent there, and I think at the end of the season, I think that those new guys will have settled in and be able to put up some decent numbers, and I don't think it will be as big of a deal as if it was at the beginning of the season. Then I would definitely go with USC just because I think Notre Dame's offense will struggle at that point, but I think they will have it figured out at this point in the season. So I am going to give this to Notre Dame in a close one, and that will drop USC to 9-3 in my opinion. But this is a team that only had 4 wins last year, but complete overhaul on the offensive side of the ball, as well as a couple improvements on defense. And the Pac-12 is such a weak league that going from 4 to 10 wins is feasible in my opinion. I think if they avoid the upset to Fresno State that I picked, which could very easily happen, and they get this win against Notre Dame, they could easily finish with 11 wins, which would just be crazy, going from 4 to 11 wins. And I don't think that would be possible in any other league besides the Pac-12. I think it's definitely probably the worst Power 5 conference, maybe the Big 12, but I think the Pac-12 is actually worse. So should be a good improvement for USC this season, and it'll be interesting to see if they can push for a Pac-12 South title and get into that Pac-12 championship game and potentially make the college football playoffs. So definitely be paying attention to that USC offense this year and seeing how they progress in year 1 with Lincoln Riley.